Okay, we'll start here. Where are you divided? Where are you internally divided? You're split. You're of two minds, two behaviors, two thoughts, two beliefs. You can't make up your mind. Maybe it's this, maybe it's that. If it's behavior, you do this, but you shouldn't, so you do that. But I want to do this, and you go back and forth. Where's their conflict? Take a minute to boot up the software. I'm going to give you a few examples as well, because this is a very far-reaching idea. There's many, many different ways that we can be divided. And in so doing, I'm going to push forward my main thesis of today's video, which is the problem is not the problem. Like, the problem that you think is the problem is not the problem. The problem is internal conflict. It is internal division. So I'm going to make that point. And then I'm going to talk about how to, dissolve, remove internal conflict. And I'm going to give you a technique, subtle, powerful, and usable across all of these examples. And my big hope for you is that you will turn this into your personal practice, where you are no longer butting your head against the impossible task of attempting to win the internal conflict, which is just only a source of pain and struggle, and to instead dissolve and integrate, dissolve and integrate, dissolve and integrate, dissolve and integrate, so that all of the different fractured pieces that are you, the thousands of pieces out there, come together and they recohere and you reunify into one thing. And there's your power, there's your clarity, there's your purpose, there's your unidirectionality, there's your simplicity, and we're good to go. So that's the aim for today. So if that is of interest to you, stick around. If we never met, my name is Brent. Hello. I am a coach. I coach people to what are they? I'm trying to memorize them. They are to come out of chaos and into order, to come out of stagnation and into flow, and to come out of powerlessness and into empowerment. If that appeals to you, then you will be interested in the one-on-one work that I offer. And there's a link in the description below where I tell you all about that, including how to get your first session for free. So check that out if that is of interest to you. All right, so let's get into it. Internal conflict. So let's start with habit. So internal conflict is when you find yourself irresistibly drawn to one habit and you can't stop yourself from doing it. And then you do it and maybe do like way too much of it. And then you're like, oh, I'm so gross and terrible and shitty. And then you go over to the other side and then you do the good thing for a little while until you can't get yourself to do it anymore. And then you slingshot back. So that's habit. From a philosophical point of view, the internal conflict is maybe reality is one way and then maybe reality is another way. And you have these two polarities that just cannot gel, like materialism versus occultism, or simple, heart-centeredness versus integral theory, or maybe, what would be another one? Oh, say like, liberal, progressive, left-wing politics versus conservative, right-wing politics, right? There's, you find sense-making and truth in both sides, but they seem to be at war with each other. And you're like trying to figure out where you stand. You're trying to figure out if you're a left-wing person or a right-wing person, and you just can't figure it out. Other examples. In terms of methods, in terms of approach. So here's one. So when I make these YouTube videos for you, I have been internally divided along the polarity of, on one hand, should I do it from the point of view of pragmatism and clicks and optimization, right? Like having a good thumbnail and having a clickbaity title and having a really strong cold open in my videos, et cetera, et cetera. Make sure you stick around to the end where you're going to get the big thing, all that kind of stuff. And then on the other hand of that, the other polarity is just doing everything based on vibes, just showing up and being like, hey, what up? And doing it exactly the way that feels correct and intuitive. And so both of those are incomplete polarities too, right? Because if I do just only the first one, then it's dry and manipulative and gross. And you're like, you just feel like you're being squeezed, But then if I do it the other way, then it's not really interesting and maybe it falls flat, right? So there we go. So one more time, it's like in terms of habits, in terms of technique, in terms of philosophy, in terms of approach, where are you divided? Good. I hope by this point that I have highlighted for you yourself at least one way in which you're divided. Now, here's what I want to say about that, is that the wrong way of considering this is to imagine it in terms of the conflict, in terms of the right one winning over the wrong one. And the reason why this is the incorrect way of thinking about it is because the polarity itself is false. That original split is false. Each side represents some form of fractured truth that needs to be seen, appreciated, validated, and integrated into the whole so that the benefits of both can be drawn upon. So the wrong way of considering the political problem of thinking, okay, am I a left-hand person or a right-hand person? It may be the case at the end of the day that you, due to your psychological temperament, you just end up being a progressive type person, and that's just where you're at. But before you do that, it's not about which is the right one. It's about noting that you think it is just one or the other. And you think that just getting to the bottom of it, like just finding out which one's the best one, that's the way forward. This will only produce more confusion, more data, more complication, more misery. Okay, we're doing good so far? So the first thing that you need to know is that it's not about one side winning over the other. To take another example, like habit setting, right? It's not about only eating celery and never eating candy, and the part of you that wants to eat candy must be subverted and subordinated by the stronger and better part of you that wants to eat celery. The part of you that wants to eat candy has a purpose. Now, maybe ideally we want to eliminate sugar from our diet. This is the case for me. This is the journey that I'm presently on, eliminating sugar. But the part of you that does feel inclined to eat sugar has a purpose that it's trying to get met. And it could be any number of purposes. It could be one where you're eating sugar because it helps you feel safe. You're eating sugar because it helps you feel loved. You eat sugar as a way of preventing your trauma or fear or sadness or grief from surfacing in a way that would overwhelm you. Whatever it is. So what we're aiming for then is the integration of the polarities, the integration of the different aspects of self into one thing. Now we can get into how to do it. So the way not to do it is to choose one side to win over the other, just as we were describing. The way to do it is to become impartial. To be able to look at the different sides, the fractured pieces, without attempting to make something happen. The whole skill and technique behind this is to achieve a place of absolute neutrality, absolute indifference. And this can be hard when you're dealing with an addiction. It can be hard when you're dealing with a problem that you've been struggling with for a very long time. And so the key to doing it is to set up a nice, safe, contained space, such as this one, right? You're just listening to me talk right now. You're not, we can just chill, and there's some space here to play. Let the two aspects that are in conflict be there without you attempting to do anything about it. In other words, stop trying to get rid of one aspect of yourself for a moment. Let that aspect of you that you don't like be there without you fighting it, without you trying to get rid of it. Let it be there. Notice also the intense desire in you to be beyond this problem, to have this problem be solved, to be somewhere else, to move into the next chapter of your life beyond this problem. Let that desire be there too, because that desire is also partiality, right? It is an aspect of you trying to affect an outcome. It's trying to make something happen, and it won't feel okay until that thing has happened. So it is trying to affect that outcome from a needy, heavy, forceful place. And what we're doing right now is removing force and need. So you allow the desire to be there too, and you bless it. You say, good, be there, no problem. And notice in you all of the tumult and all of the conflict and all of the attempt to make something happen, the attempt to get somewhere. Notice the discomfort, notice the jitteriness, notice the impatience. Bring attention to all of that and permission for all of that to be there. What else is there that's attempting to do something? What else in there is in you that is partial? Trying to make this happen, trying to do this exercise right, trying to get out of here, trying to get somewhere. Attention on all of that now. Permission for all of that to be there. And then it brings you to a moment such as this one, where you can look at the whole thing and just go, okay, that is the sum total of all of my desire and worry, fear, angst, force, need. It's all there. And you permit all of it to be there. What happens now? You feel it? How would you describe this feeling? Silent? Relaxing? How does your body respond? Because this whole time it was the attempt to get there or win that was holding the tension in the body. By creating a momentary space where you're not attempting to affect an outcome in yourself, the moment that effort is dropped, even just for a moment, the whole conflict drops, including the division, which was artificially maintained by that conflict. Isn't that funny? So the division is dropped and then the polarities merge. And what I love about this is that it turns out not to be this or that. And it's not even like a sort of disappointing, lackluster milquetoast compromise. But all the pieces find their spot. And the unified whole that you've always been wakes up. I'm remembering suddenly the Power Rangers. If you're a millennial, you might remember the Power Rangers, where all of the different so each Power Ranger had their own dinosaur, their Zord, Z-O-R-D. And then when they had to really get serious, the Zords would unify into the Megazord. And one animal becomes the arm, the other becomes the leg, one becomes the head, etc. And that Megazord itself wakes up as a conscious entity. It goes, oh yeah, now I'm back together. Now in the case of our example, just imagine the different Zords fighting each other. And then they stop fighting each other and then reunify into the Megazord. And now that Megazord has the power to draw upon of all of the different aspects. That's what I'm talking about. So look at the ways in which you're divided. Find the meta space and allow the conflict energy to dissolve and hold that meta space. And you can see now from this vantage how it's just, whereas before it felt so much like it was about pushing through, right? Like we all fall prey to that. I constantly fall victim to that. I can't even believe it after all these years of flapping my gums at you about like, don't use force and pressure and push and so forth. You still do it. It feels like I have to push all the way forward. No. We find the meta position and allow the conflicting parts to integrate. And then once we do, the clarity finds its way forward. It just becomes clear what to do. And our goal now going forward is to unify all the pieces. So you tell me, does this make sense? Are you getting this? Is this missing anything? Is there any argument to be made about it? Hit like, please, and consider subscribing. In fact, do more than consider subscribing. Please do subscribe. Thank you for watching.